Hi everybody, I'm Melissa with Pixie Dust Adventures. Right now we are on part 3 of our 3-part video series, and we are going to talk about what happens if you cruise without a passport. In part 1, we talked about do you need a passport to cruise and when you do. In part 2, we talked about why I strongly recommend that you always cruise with a passport, and stay tuned for what happens if you don't. All right, I'm back, and we are going to talk about what happens if you're cruising without a passport. Full disclosure here, I am not an attorney. I am not your cruise contract. I am not the cruise line. Every situation is different and is unique. So I can just give you guys some kind of general advice and general guidelines. This is nothing hard and fast and legal. But what happens if you encounter an emergency and you're on a cruise ship and you don't have a passport? First of all, I hope that never happens to you. This is a tough question to answer because every cruise and every individual situation is a little bit different. Of course, if you're planning a trip with me, I'm going to do everything that in my power to help you, but sometimes my hands are tied. There's not a lot I can do from all the way across the ocean, where all I can do is make phone calls. You are right there in person, and some of these things just require a lot of legwork, a lot of talking to people. Sometimes it's hard for communication at first because you don't speak the language if you're in a foreign port of call. You are ultimately a U.S. citizen, and you will be allowed to return to the United States eventually. But how long that will take, how many hotel nights, hotel bills, confusing situations, and money that will cost you to get the proper documentation to return to the country, I really can't say. We talked about a few situations in episode 2, why you would need a passport and why I strongly encourage you to travel with one. For example, if you get medically debarked and you don't have a passport and you are taken to the hospital, or a family member, a child, a spouse, somebody, you're taken to the hospital for medical treatment and you need to return to the United States in a way other than on the cruise ship, because the cruise ship is not going to wait for you to get back on board. You're going to need to acquire an emergency passport or emergency documentation to return home. You're going to need to find the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate. You'll need to contact the consular staff and tell them your story. Find out where to get an acceptable photo for this documentation and inform them of any travel plans that necessitate an expediting of the passport process. Once you share the required documents with the consulate or the embassy and pay all of the required fees to expedite this, the embassy or consulate can provide you with either a replacement passport or a limited validity emergency passport so that you can return home. You might run into trouble if you're trying to get a passport for emergency travel on the weekend or on a holiday, and there's a lot of different holidays in other countries that are observed that are not observed by us. If the embassy or the consulate in your port of call is closed, you might even have to wait a little longer. You can try to contact the after-hours off-duty officer if your request can't wait until the next business day. It's not always an easy task to do that, and it's not always possible. And in emergency situations, sometimes we're not even thinking clearly. It's really hard to work through these things. I hope none of you are ever stuck in this kind of situation. And something else that I always preach is travel insurance. Please have it. Please travel with travel insurance at all times to help in these situations. But again, your passport is another type of insurance. It's an investment. For children, passports last 5 years. For adults, passports last 10 years. And let's face it, after your cruise, you're going to be hooked and you're going to want to go on more and more of them. So please cruise with a passport. This little document tells everyone I'm a U.S. citizen and I'm allowed to come back home into the country. So look at your passport like kind of another insurance policy. You may not need it, but you also may. And trust me, again, you're going to want to cruise again and again. You're going to want to explore more, adventure further. So why not just get that passport and have it for your very first cruise and from then on out? I hope you learned something. I hope that was helpful. I hope this video series was helpful as well. If you like our videos, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell icon to get notifications of when we post new content, and post a comment below. If you would like planning assistance for your next cruise, look me up. My name is Melissa. You'll find me at pixiedustadventures.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.